Hi and welcome to 21st Century Times Tables. This movie will show you how to help your child learn what we used to call the times tables. I'll be showing you how to cut the number of facts to learn down from 169 to just 36. So let's take a look. Alright, here they are, the times tables, just how we used to learn them back in the 20th century. These days we call them the basic multiplication facts, or basic facts for short. As you can see, there's a 13 by 13 grid, which means there are 169 individual facts to learn. We're going to find out how to reduce that load considerably, so let's kick off. Let's start off with the zero times table. It's not really a times table at all. In fact, you can learn every multiplication involving zero with just one rule. 0 times anything is 0, and anything times 0 is just the same, 0. So let's try it. 0 times 6, that's 0. 0 times 6 million, yeah, that's 0. So we don't need to learn this as a times table at all. Let's just get rid of it, and we'll learn the rule instead. Okay, onto the 1 times table. Well, like the zeros, there's another rule. Anything times 1 is whatever that thing was in the first place. 1 times anything, it stays the same. 8 times 1, 8. 1 times 80,000, yep, 80,000. So we can go ahead and wipe the ones as well. Right, let's move on to the 12 times table. Now our old currency had 12 pence in a shilling. Our old system of measurement had 12 inches in a foot. And, well, it was because of these that the 12 times table had to be learned back in the 20th century. These days we don't use either of the currency or the measurement, so we can get rid of the 12 times table right now. And as for the 11s, well, they fitted in quite nicely between the 10s and the 12s, so there's no reason to keep them. Let's chuck them out. Great. Okay, now moving on to the 10s. In the English language, the T in 80 is shorthand for 10. So 80 means 8 tens. If you think of another language like Mandarin, the word ba shi also means 80. The difference is ba shi, and I must excuse my pronunciation, ba shi literally means 8 tens. That's its literal translation. So in English, it's a bit less obvious. But that's what we teach kids at school. T means tens, so 80 means 8 tens. And armed with this knowledge, we no longer need to learn the tens as a table. Instead, we learn the meaning of the words for multiples of 10. Let's get rid of the 10 times table then. Right, we'll leave the table grid for a moment and we'll come back to it shortly. Now, here's another very useful aspect of multiplication, which can really help kids learn the basic facts more quickly. Now you can see here 15 dots. They're arranged in 3 rows of 5 dots. There they are. And we write that as 3 times 5 equals 15. Plain and simple. Now here's the interesting bit. If we rotate this block of 15 dots by 90 degrees, like this, we now have the same shape, but it's a different problem. Now we've got 5 rows of 3 dots. There they are. And we write this, of course, as 5 times 3 equals 15. Same answer, different story. So when we learn one fact, like 3 times 5, as long as we understand how the corresponding fact is related, we can also learn 5 times 3. Right, let's try this out by learning the 2 times table. Okay, we know we don't need 2 times 0 or 2 times 1 because we've learned those rules already, and we know that the word 20 means 2 tens, so no need to learn 2 times 10. What does that leave us with? Well, we now have 8 facts to learn. So let's start with 2 times 2. That's 4. Easy. But while we're here, let's just remind ourselves that because multiplication and division are related, knowing 2 times 2 equals 4 also means that we know 4 divided by 2 is 2. That's handy. Okay, next comes 2 times 3 equals 6. That also means I know 3 times 2 is 6, and don't forget the corresponding division facts. 6 divided by 3 is 2, and 6 divided by 2 is 3. Let's go on to 2 times 4. That equals 8. And yes, you're getting the idea now. That allows me to also know that 4 times 2 is 8. And yep, there they are, the corresponding division facts. Right, 2 times 5 is 10. That means 5 times 2 is 10. And we know the division fact's 2. And on we go with the rest of the 2's. Right up to 2 times 9. Plus all of the corresponding division facts. That's pretty useful, I think. Let's apply that logic to our times table grid here. Essentially, when you work out the facts that have the same answer, you're able to cross out nearly half of those remaining. Now I like that. And here's the final version. This is the poster you need to put up on your wall. 36 basic multiplication facts to learn. Isn't that a little less daunting than 169 facts? We've actually cut it right down to just 36. I think your kids will find that a little more palatable. So what about getting those 36 facts into long-term memory? Well, there's actually a very good way to do it. There's really no need to learn the times tables in a linear order like we used to do it. 1 2 is 2, 2 2s are 4, 3 2s are 6, and so on. Let's just drop that, and let's look at families of facts instead. Essentially, a family of facts is a collection of multiplication and division facts which belong together. In this case, we can generate 4 facts from the numbers 4, 6, and 24. Here they are. 4 times 6 is 24. 6 times 4 is 24. 24 divided by 4 is 6. And 24 divided by 6 is 4. Once you've identified all those facts, we can turn to a time-honoured technique of learning these things, and that is, of course, repetition. So your child can write out each fact repeatedly, just like this. Now, the research shows that repetition is the means by which we embed things in our long-term memory. So the teachers of the 20th century were certainly doing something right when they had us repeating our times tables again and again. And just like back then, it's really important to have your child repeat what they've written out loud. Back to the research, it seems we recall our basic facts as if they're a tape played back in our heads. Let's go and give that a try if you don't believe me. What's 7 times 9? So you got 63, I hope. And how did you get it, though? Did you figure it out mathematically, or did you play it back in your head? Well, whatever you did, let's go with the research and get those repetitions in both written and spoken form. Right, in terms of which order to learn the facts in, there's a clear reason for which ones to learn when. Firstly, and let's say this right up front, before kids learn any times tables, we really want them to know what multiplication means. That really means repeated addition to start with, and that's how kids first encounter it. And for that reason, we will start with the 2 times tables as they're closely related to the doubles in addition. Next comes the 5s. They have an obvious pattern and they're easy to remember. We should also make sure, remember, that our kids understand the rules of 0 and 1 for multiplication, as well as the meaning of the words in English which describe multiples of 10. You know, they should know that 60 is 6 tens without having to think about it. Next, they can learn the 3 and 4 times tables, the facts for those, and then finally the 6s, 7s, 8s, and 9s, which actually make up the smallest number of facts to learn but are often the hardest to remember. Now, all the while, you can keep your child involved in the learning by allowing them to check off the facts they have learned, like this. Now, when I say learned, I mean they can instantly recall the answer. There's a difference between saying, I know 8 times 5 is 40, so 7 times 5 must be 5 less, and that's 35. And saying 5 times 7 is 35. I just know that. If your child can repeatedly recall a fact within 3 seconds of asking, then that's a good piece of evidence that they've learned it. If they spend time working it out, then they definitely need more practice. So there we have it. 169 facts reduced to 36, and some really useful ways to learn them. Hopefully you've found this movie helpful, and you've now got some ideas of ways you can support your child to learn the basic facts. Remember, the key to learning them is practice. Sure, they'll get plenty of practice at school each day, but there's every reason for you to get involved and give them an extra boost at home. You can take 5 minutes a day working on a family of facts, as we saw earlier. You could play a card game which is specifically about multiplying single-digit numbers. There are lots of ways you can help, and I really encourage you to get involved in supporting your child to learn the basic facts. It can only be good for them. Now, all of these ideas are based in research, and if you want to read more, here are a few references you can track down in your local library. So, thanks very much for watching.